let's get some reaction to that because we have a super friend on the show who both you and I hang out with on game days, and we know him and love him from the Browns Radio Network. He is Tyvis Powell. He's on the fan hotline. Tyvis, big breaking news right there. Joe Flacco is going to start week number 1. He is their starting. He is their starting quarterback. Is he starting this week or is he starting week 1? I'm assuming week 1. Okay, go ahead.
Is that breaking news?
Yes, it's breaking. It's breaking news.
Is that something that we all didn't know?
Breaking news. Break it for us.
Well, that was the worst kept breaking news I've ever seen all year. I mean, once the injuries played a factor into all this and we never got a chance to see Kenny Pickett, it was quite evident. We've seen the young guys, both young guys, although had some good showings, both have some work to do. You just wouldn't be confident with those guys going in week 1 against Cincinnati. So it's the right choice. It's the only choice.
I think it's a disappointing choice. Hi, Tyvis. I say that for this reason.
How do you work with this negativity, Tyvis?
No, it's not. It's not negative. It's my. I've said all along. My hope was that somebody would beat out Joe Flacco, because that would mean you have a young guy on the rise who you really like. Pickett might have had a chance, Tyvis, but obviously with his hamstring, he didn't get that opportunity. So now it's Joe. I wonder how long of a look he gets. And, if it's not going well and Pickett gets healthy, does he get in there? If it's not going well, does Dillon Gabriel, does Shedeur Sanders get a chance? What do you think?
I think that's the ultimate question. How long will Joe last? A lot of people are on about 4 to 6 games is the kind of his range. People wonder, why do y'all say that? Well, with the Browns, it took 6 games before he fell off the cliff. Before us, he was with the Jets. It took like 3 games, and then he went off the cliff. Last year, he was with the Colts. I think it took 2 games, and then he fell off the cliff. So it's the point of making sure that you're ready and having these young guys ready to go. Like I said, I wasn't confident in these young guys starting the season, but you give them a couple of weeks, which Joe Flacco can give you a couple of weeks. I think that they will be able to learn pretty quickly and be able to contribute right away. Now, question is, which one out of the 2 are you more comfortable with going in there? And I think that is something that remains to be seen. Right now, if I had to pick my choice, it would be Shedeur. But I can't say that I didn't like some of the stuff I've seen with Dillon Gabriel. Obviously, the 2 turnovers, played a huge factor into Dillon Gabriel's performance. But before that, he seemed like he looked really good in that offense. Some of his passes was great. Converting on those third downs was big. My only issue, the biggest difference between him and Shedeur, outside of the turnovers, of course, is to me, when Shedeur gets in the red zone, Shedeur turns his into touchdowns, to where Dillon Gabriel had a couple of field goals. So that, to me, is a huge difference.
Tyvis, do you think they're keeping 4 quarterbacks still? And to double down on that, if they keep 3, would you be okay with the 2 rookies right now, one of them being the backup?
I don't think they need to keep 4. I really don't. I mean, I know you didn't get a fair assessment of seeing Kenny Pickett, but I just think that you'd be doing the 2 young guys a disservice if you keep Kenny Pickett as well. The ultimate goal of this season is once you get done, once the 17 games is over, and if the Browns don't make the postseason, whenever their last game is, this fan base just want to know, do we have the quarterback on the roster for the future? That's ultimately what this whole season ties into for a lot of this fan base. And if you get Kenny Pickett in here, you just delaying again us finding out if we have that guy on this roster or not. So I think you got to find out. I just don't want it to be too early. I don't want to stunt people's growth by putting them in there week 1, because there'll be some growing pains. I think if you let them sit for a couple of whiles, history shows that does them some good.
Why couldn't that guy be Kenny Pickett?
What, on the roster for the rest of the thing?
No.
I feel like
maybe having a quarterback for the future. He's only 27.
I think that a lot of people seeing Kenny Pickett, you kind of are who you are. I know the Sam Darnold thing happened, but the thing about the Sam Darnold thing is that's not something that happens all the time. People we try to make this into like this is the norm because maybe Geno Smith did it and maybe Sam Darnold did it. So we're trying to look like, oh, this is the new norm. You take a former first round pick and you get him in your system and boom, he just flourishes. That doesn't happen all the time. It's rare. It's been happening. Obviously, I gave you two examples. I guess you could throw Baker Mayfield, but Baker even bounced around a couple of times before he got it. So I don't know. I just don't think that's right now is, especially when you got 2 first-round picks next year. I kind of think like you don't really need to necessarily look at him. I think that Joe is your best option. You've seen him in camp for the parts that he was healthy. Everybody that's seen all 4 quarterbacks said that Joe head and shoulders was better than the other 3, and that's including Kenny Pickett. So if that's the case, I don't understand why you need to look at what is Kenny going to do that the other 2 can't do. And then on top of that, you got the other 2 longer and they're cheaper. They always say, Jeff, the rule is if 2 players are the same, give you the same talent, can give you the same stuff on the field, then you go with the younger guy because you have him longer and he's cheaper and he's younger. So that's why they will go with the 2 younger guys.
I'm curious to see if Pickett has anything, Tyvis, and that's why it's so disappointing that the guy hurt his hamstring. He has some success in the NFL, and some team thought highly enough of him to make him a first-round pick. And you're right, it's not the norm that a Sam Darnold situation happens, but it's also not the norm that a 3rd or a 5th-round quarterback become your franchise guy. So the fact that nobody is beating out Flacco just screams to me, all right, who are they going to take next year at quarterback?
Yeah, well, that ultimately could be the possibility. I just think there may be, you give them a couple of more weeks, and who knows? I'm actually disappointed in the fact that Kenny got hurt as well because I wanted to see it. This is a guy like depth chart wise, he was second. Like he was second on the depth chart, and I don't know if that was because of his experience in the league or if it was play. I'm gonna assume that it was play, and the fact that we seen what the quarterback 4 and quarterback 3 look like kind of made me want to see what the second guy look like. Why is he why is he getting reps with the ones? Why is he the second guy in? I wanted to see what it looked like in this offense, but unfortunately injuries is a part of it. So many great players that we can name that, when they was able to play, they were good, but their careers fell short because they just weren't durable. And I always continue to say, you can't make the club from the tub. So it's unfortunate that he got hurt. Who knows? Maybe he'll stick around. Maybe he'll take a practice squad type thing. I don't think he would, but you never know. The Browns do a good job of negotiating those type of things. So maybe they'll make it worth his while.
Tyvis, they picked up Isaiah Bond, wide receiver, had some issues and was available as a free agent. Is making the money of a guy that probably would have got signed at the end of the 2nd round, 3rd round. So that's probably where he would have been drafted. Your thoughts on that and what that means for the wide receiving core?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna keep the off the field issues because I'm not really too familiar with that whole entire situation. So I'm gonna just stick to the field. I mean, on field wise, this is a guy that was explosive. He stretches the field, which is something that you don't have. I think that when you look at that wide receiver room, if he does hit, if he is the guy like people will project him to be, because I think they compared him kind of to like a Jaden Waddle. If he is like that, then obviously you build into the future. If you hit on one of these quarterbacks, one of these rookie quarterbacks, if Quinshawn can be who Quinshawn's supposed to be, and Harold Fanning, Carson Schlesinger, Mason Graham, now you got a good solid foundation for the future. You got some good pieces that you can count on years from now. You're building a solid foundation. And Isaiah Bond could definitely be that. If he really gets in that playbook and learns the things and catch up to the speed, him, Judy, Tillman, that could be nice. That could be really nice because now you got a guy that can absolutely take the top off of a defense.
I agree with you completely. I love from a football standpoint, I love the move, Tyvis. I like the idea that Tommy Rees was his offensive coordinator at Alabama, and now here he sits in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think that's when he played his best ball, actually, was with Alabama. So, yeah, I like it. He knows what to do to get him open. So, it should be good. Obviously, with the contract that he signed, you would think he's a lock to make this roster. So, I'm actually intrigued to see who's the odd man out.
That's a good question. You think a team will keep 5 or 6 wide receivers?
Well, I think if they decide to keep 4 quarterbacks, I think you can make 5. But if you decide to keep 3 quarterbacks, you could go with your norm and keep 6.
All right, I'm going to switch gears on it just for a second. Julian Sayin officially getting the job at Ohio State. I'm going to get a little Buckeye info on it. Your thoughts on him being the starting quarterback for this first game against Texas, which is a week from Saturday at noon.
You had to make sure you threw that on there.
At noon.
I think that Julian Sang arm talent is really good. I think that he is probably a good choice for him. I do like Lincoln, though. I do want to see Lincoln at some point, get some snaps in there as well, because I don't want his last thought. When people think of Lincoln Kinghouse, I don't want them to just think of the Cotton Bowl. I think he's earned the right to be able to change that narrative. But arm talent-wise, throwing the ball-wise, just quick release-wise, Julian Sang was the better option in that. It's nice to see, though, but I want to see how he does against, Arch Manning and this Texas team. They're supposed to be projected to win the national championship this year. I want to see if he's able to, lock in and block out the noise and still have a successful game against Texas.
It is weird, though. I think the Buckeyes are favored in this game against Texas only because it's at home, right? That's the only reason why.
Probably. I mean, or maybe they don't believe in the Arch Manning hype.
That's possible. I just give me your overall feelings on Ohio State.
I think this is just a young team. Obviously, as this season goes on, I think as fans, you have to be kind of patient with them. I think that they'll win games, but it won't be in a dominant fashion because you got young guys that's still trying to figure things out. But I think by the time you get towards the end of that season, hopefully these guys have grown, the experience has caught up to them. And because talent-wise, they're as good as anybody talent-wise. I'll be very interested to see how these coordinators work. It's very difficult, having two different coordinators coming into the season and trying to put it all together. There's just a lot of turnover, especially with the roster being the way it is. But, Ryan Day does a really good job of, getting teams prepared. And I think that they'll be obviously in the playoffs, and I'm interested to see how much they've grown since the beginning of the season to the end. And if they have, then they have the talent to go all the way and absolutely repeat. But it's going to be a long road to do that.
All right, let's see how good you are. Bedford opens up against East. They play Twinsburg after that. Big game against Padua, third game of the season. Break down the Bedford Bearcats.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you.
All right, I just want to see you to be honest.
If I remember correctly, I think Bedford has a really good running back. But I think he's small. I think he's a smaller guy. But they say he's really, really good. I don't know his name, but this is kind of that's just some of the stuff that I know about Bedford this year.
I'm just making sure. I just want to see how good you are. We love working with you, both of us too, Jeff. We sing your praises. We sing your praises when you're not looking, even though we don't do that to your face.
Well, it is what it is. I just want to win fact or fiction. That's all.
Oh, one day you will. I'll feel good for.
How do you win something that has no scoring system?
Well, it does have a scoring system. We're gonna have to fill them in, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
We're gonna have to fill them in.
I will see you two gentlemen Saturday.
Yes, we will see you on Saturday. Thank you, Tyvis. We appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem.
Super. You got it. Super friend of the show, Tyvis Powell, Browns Radio Network. Also works with Jeff and I on the Browns Radio Network pre and post game. So nice enough to join us.